In this video, we're going to explore functions that we can use to manipulate text in Excel. We'll briefly discuss what each of the functions does, and then we're going to jump over to Excel. I'm going to show you a practical application for each of the functions. Now, before we get started, I just want to remind you, first link in the description box below is my Gumroad page where you can find all kinds of resources, templates, and courses absolutely for free. Now, let's get started with the functions. Those are the functions that we'll be going through. We have len, which returns the number of characters in a string. It's helpful when you want to count something, and it's especially useful in combination with other functions, and we're going to talk about that a bit more. Then we have replace and substitute, which both allow us to replace part of a string with a new string, but they work differently. So we're going to look at when it's better to use replace and when it's better to use substitute. Then value just converts numbers stored as text to values. This can help us to clean up our data and check if everything is correctly formatted. Left and right are two of my personal favorite functions in Excel, so they allow you to grab a left portion or a right portion from a string, specifying how many characters you want to grab. They're especially useful in combination and also in combination with len. Then we have find, match, and xmatch. Those helps us find where string starts in another string, or match and xmatch help us where a cell starts in a range of cells. Then we got clean and trim. So a lot of times when you're working, especially with like legacy ERPs or accounting software, you might get unprintable characters or leading or trailing spaces. Also, when you're separating strings into columns, you can also get those leading and trailing spaces. So those two functions help us clean all that. So we're working with high quality data. Then concat or ampersand, those help us combine strings and values in a single string. And text allows us to format values or dates as text. First one is len. It's really simple. It just returns the number of character in a text string, gets one parameter, the text itself, and it will return the length of this text as an integer. And also important to know that spaces count as characters. Here's how the len function works. Essentially, we just use the function and provide the text, in this case item code, and then we can copy that down. And for example, this can be really useful if we know that item codes need to be 15 characters each. For example, obviously this is not the case here, but we can do that and see if somewhere we're missing a character or something happened when we were typing those or whatever. Next, we have replace, which essentially helps us to replace part of the string based on a number of characters that we specify with a different text string. It takes 4 parameters. So we have the old text. So this is the cell essentially where we want to replace characters. We have the start num, which is the position where you want to start replacing, the number of characters that we want to replace. So essentially, replace doesn't care about the characters themselves. It just cares where it starts and how big of a chunk we want to replace, and it's going to replace it with the new text that we provide. And keep in mind, the number of characters here does not have to equal the number of characters that we're providing. We can use the replace function, for example, to change a group or to change some part of an item code. This example here, so we grab the old text. We're going to say that our start number is 4, AB dash, and then we want to change those 3. We're going to say 4. We'll say that we want to change 3 characters. So our group NYC. And the text we want to change it with is, let's say, new group. And you see that we get the exact same item code, but the NYC here is changed with the text that we provided. We can copy that down, and it's going to do the same thing to all of the item codes. Then next, substitute. And here it's important to know that we use substitute when we want to replace specific text. And as we mentioned, we use replace when we want to replace any text that occurs in a specific location. So substitute essentially takes 4 parameters. One is optional. So we got the text. This is where we want to replace our string, essentially the cell where we want to replace the string. The alt text is the string we want to replace, so we have to provide exactly what we want to replace. New text is what we want to replace it with, and there's this additional optional parameter that specifies which occurrence we want to replace. So, for example, if we have multiple occurrences of this string, we want to replace the third one, you're going to provide instance num3, and otherwise, if we don't provide this instant number, it's going to replace every occurrence. So the way substitute works is we can say substitute, this is the text, and we want to find the alt text, in this case rm, this here, this group, and we want to replace that to mr because this was a typo. We're not going to provide an instance number because we want to replace all occurrences. Copy that down, and you see that everywhere we have rm, now we have mr. So for example, let's see, one more here, somewhere here we also had rm, now it's mr. The value function converts a text string that represents a number to a number. Keep in mind, Excel is pretty good with converting those if you want to use them in formulas or things like that. But once in a while, this can cause issues in like summing columns in a larger data set. So we can use value to really help us figure out if our data is actually one that we can manipulate within Excel. The value function allows us, you see, this is like stored as text because it has the single quote in the beginning, and this is also formatted as text. And Excel is pretty good, so you can multiply that by 2 and it's going to convert it to a value. That's no issue. But you can also use the value formula to convert it like that. Where value is really important is, for example, if we have something that's formatted, let's say like that, and it looks like a specially formatted number. So the thing here is that you can use the value formula for a large data set and then just filter where you get the value error. So those would be numbers that you would need to manually fix or replace empty spaces and dollar signs or other currency signs to make sure that those can actually be used in calculations. Left and right essentially return the first or the last, depending on whether we're using left or right character or characters in a text string based on the number of characters that we specify. Left and right have the exact same syntax. We got one parameter that is text. This is the text where we want to extract characters from. And then number of characters, which is optional. This is how many characters we want to extract. It has to be 0 or above, a positive number. And if it's more than the length of the text, we're just going to get the entire text. And if we don't provide it, remember this num characters as optional, then the function will just return the first character to assume that it's 1. Here, for example, we want to get the category, NYC, LAX, G, SFO. So here we'll use a combination of left and right to grab the second group here, NYC, LAX. So I'm going to first say I want the left of this, and I want how many characters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 characters. This gets me AB-NYC. So now I'm going to wrap that in a right formula, and I'm going to say that I want 3 characters from it. So that way we only get NYC. Copy that down, and it's all good. The find function is really helpful because it helps us locate one text string within a second text string and returns the number of the starting position character. So the first character that where the text we're searching for, where it happens inside the larger text, this is what we're going to get, the index of the first character. A bit of a more advanced information here. So find always counts each character as 1, whether it's single byte or double byte. So for example, the Cyrillic alphabet has double byte characters, while the Latin alphabet has single byte characters. So it doesn't care about the default language settings. It would always assume that those are 1. And if you want to treat double byte characters as 2, which is like a really rare use case, but Here's the knowledge. You can use find B, which essentially means find binary. So it has the same syntax, works the same way, just counts double byte characters as 2. Here's the syntax: find text, within text, and an optional start num parameter. So find text is the text that we're searching for, what we want to find. Within text is where we're searching for it. And then the optional character specifies the character at which to start the search. The first character in within text, so where we're searching, is character number 1. And if we omit start num, it is assumed to be 1. This can help you in situations where you're applying the find formula to a huge database. So if you know that you're looking within a longer text and what you're looking for only occurs after a certain number of characters, you might want to use that to reduce the strain, the required processing in order for Excel to calculate everything for your large database. Let's say here we want to grab the first category, ACB, AXZ, and we can typically use the left function to grab that, but you see that those are different lengths. So the only thing I know is that they're all separated by a dash. So we can use find to find the text dash. Within text is this text here, and this will show us in what position is this dash. So here is the 4th position, here is the 5th position. So now what we can do is we can say left, grab our text here, B6, and then for number of characters, say find where this starts. And because find gave us the index of 4, when we give that to left, it also grabs the 4th character. So what we need to do here is from this find function, within the number of characters for the left function parameter, we're just gonna subtract 1, and now we get the actual category. Copy that down, and you see that by combining find with left, we're actually able to get only the first category. Match searches for a specified item in a range of cells and then returns its position. It's usually, at least it used to be really popular to combine index and match as a replacement for VLOOKUP, but essentially since we got XLOOKUP, this is no longer the case really, but match can still help you when you're searching for the location of something. So there are some use cases for it. It takes 3 parameters, and those are the lookup value. So this is what we're looking for, the lookup array. This is the range of cells where we're searching, and the match type, which is optional. It can be default. It defaults to 1, but it can also be -1, 0, or 1. And this essentially specifies how Excel matches the lookup value to the values within the array. So 1, which is the default, and it looks for largest value that is less than or equal to the lookup value. -1 looks for lowest value that is greater than or equal to lookup value. And essentially 0 looks for exact matches, and this is what we usually do. So for some reason, this is not the default 0, but this is what we'll usually use. You will usually specify this as 0 because usually we'll be looking for exact matches. The way match works is, for example, we want to figure out the position of this lookup value within this array here. And we're going to say that for a match type, we want an exact match, 0. And this gives us that this is the 7th element in our table here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This can be very useful when we have a large data set that we do not want to rearrange, but we need to find where different things are in this data set. Xmatch is similar to match. It's just a newer formula that allows us to be a bit more specific in terms of how the matching is done. So we have the 2 same parameters, the lookup value, which is what we're looking for, and the lookup array, where we want to find it and provide the index. But then we have 2 optional parameters, match mode and search mode. So match mode, same as with match, can be an exact match, which is now the default. So much easier, you don't have to provide this parameter. You can also have -1, exact match or next smallest. 1 exact match or next largest. And here you also have 2, which is a wildcard match, and I'm not gonna look into that. This is quite an edge case and it's a bit more complex. I have a video on using wildcards in Excel. They can be really powerful, but in much more like edge case scenarios. Then the last parameter, which is also optional, is the search mode. So here also for efficiency, we can search in different ways. So 1 allows us to search first to last, and this is the default. If we don't specify it, it's going to start from the beginning of the array and go down. Then -1 searches reverse, last to first. And then you also get 2 and -2, which essentially do a binary search that rely on the lookup array being sorted in ascending or descending order. Not gonna touch on that. It's again quite an edge case that where you need to do a binary search using Xmatch. Here we want to find when widget B was last sold. We're looking for the last sale as an index, and then we're going to provide the date. So we're going to say Xmatch. This is our lookup value. Our lookup array is our product column here. We go back up. Then our match mode is going to be 0, and because we want an exact match. And our search mode in this case will be first to last, because we're looking for the last one and the dates are arranged with the last one on top. I'm going to say search last, and we see that this is the 4th row here. And then to grab the date, we can use the index function and say, okay, this is my array. Remember to grab the header row because we grabbed it when we were calculating our last sale index. Select this whole thing and we go back up, and then our row number will be this row that we want to grab. We're not providing a column number, it's optional. And this actually tells us widget B because we selected this array, and we actually want to move it to the side here. And now we're going to get that it was 12/31. However, let's see when was the first sale. So the only thing we need to change is come up here, and for search mode, change that from 1 to -1, which is search last to first. And we see that now it's switched to January 1st, 2025. Clean and trim, especially if you use a lot of data exported from older ERPs or accounting softwares, or you're mixing and matching between data being processed on a Mac and one on a Windows PC, you can end up with a lot of situations where you get non-printable characters. So those are essentially characters that Excel doesn't show up, but they're still there. And they can mess up with formulas, and they're really hard to find, to identify. So as soon as you see that you have some issues with a data source that's from, let's say, an older system or a legacy system, you can use clean to remove those. It has one parameter, just the text, and it essentially removes characters that are non-visual and you can't see them, but they can still cause issues. And then trim is another one. You usually use those in combination a lot of the times. So trim takes text again and removes all spaces from the text string except for single spaces between words. So from example, if you have like irregular spacing that in a text that you're getting from a different application, for example, 2 spaces, 3 spaces, it's gonna trim all those to 1 space. And it's also useful when you have a string that you're converting to columns using the text-to-string function in Excel. A lot of times, if you're using a separator, for example, pipe, those can be formatted exactly like here. So you get the pipe, but you'll get the empty space between before and after the pipe character. So using trim can help you get rid of those and work with higher quality data. For clean and trim, you see here that we have a list of item codes and their names, and I have an item code here and I want to find the name. Okay, let's use XLOOKUP. We're looking for this, and we're looking within column B where we have our item codes. and we want to return column C, the name. And we get an error, but I can clearly see that this is the exact first line here. If I go into it, I'll see that I have some empty spaces in the beginning and the end, and also, and I know that, I have an unprintable character here, which I cannot see, but it's there and it's messing my XLOOKUP function here. So what I can do is I can clean the code from non-printable characters by using the clean function, and then I can also wrap that in trim, so I'm sure that I don't have any leading spaces or trailing spaces, and this gives me a clean code that I can use. Copy that down, and now I'm gonna change my lookup function. So my lookup array where I'm looking at, I'm gonna move it to column D, and my return array will still be column C where I had the names. And now you can see that it has no issue to find the name. Then you have concat, which you can also change for ampersand. It essentially combines text from multiple ranges or strings, and alternatively you can concatenate by just listing the cells and the strings with the ampersand sign. Concat replaces the older concatenate function, so you might have heard of this one, but concat works faster, and the only reason we still have concatenate is for compatibility purposes. And as you know, Excel is so ingrained in so many industries that it's kind of hard to just go ahead and remove a function. So syntax, concat, and then we just list everything that we want to concatenate. Important to note here that concat, if you want to, let's say, concatenate 5 cells with commas between them, you cannot specify this comma, this delimiter. So you have to manually add the comma in quotation marks. But if you want to do something like that, use delimiters like spacing or ampersand between each value that we're trying to combine. You can use the text join function. It also allows you to remove empty parameters. So for example, if you have empty rows in the column that you want to concatenate, then you have to look to text join. It's still quite simple syntax for text join, so I'm not gonna touch on that here, but let me know if you want to see more examples including this function, and I can include that in another video. We can use concat to build item codes. I've used that quite a lot in a previous job I had, where we had to constantly create new item code and wanted to have a category, location, and then item number. And our item numbers there were even separated, so the first 2 letters will mean something, first 2 digits will mean something, second 2 digits will mean something. But anyway, so how we can do that is use the concat function and just say this, comma, this as my separator, comma, this, again my separator, and then the item number. And this concatenates all those. I can then copy that down. And you see that I have an issue here because I don't have my separator, and this is like relatively changing the formula. So what I need to do is I want to lock that with F4 and lock that with F4. And now if I copy it down, you see that I have all those item codes ready to go. We can do the same thing with the ampersand. So I'll just have to make this equals my first cell, and my separator, and my location cell, and my separator, and my item number. Enter, and this does the same thing. Here I also need to fix those with F4 so they don't change as I move the formula down. Copy that down, and we get the same result. I personally usually prefer to use the concat function unless it's like just combining 2 or 3 things, because having so many ampersands make it kind of harder to read. Also, when I see that something starts with the concat function, I already know what it's all about. And one of my favorite functions, text, so essentially lets us change the way a number appears by applying formatting to it with Excel's format codes. Keep in mind that when we say value, this also applies to dates because dates are stored as numbers in Excel. So it's a pretty powerful function that's really useful, especially when we are concatenating, and we're going to look into that. It takes two parameters, both require the value. So this is the numeric value that we want to convert to text and format text. Now that we know how to concatenate, let's see where text as a function is really useful. So let's say I want to concatenate those two. I want to concatenate this and this. Okay, result is 10. The invoice amount is, and you see here that now we're losing this formatting, and result is, again, we're losing the formatting. If we want to have this formatting preserved, we have to use text. So what we can do here is concatenate this with the text function. We're going to grab the value in it, and then we're going to say that we want to format this. So the way I want to format this is I always want to show the 2 digits after the decimal point, and I only want to show what's in front. So I'll say the hash sign or pound sign, I'm going to format it like that. And instead of this, at the end, I'm going to have a 0. This means that if there's no number, show me 0. So that way, if it's like 0 point something, it's going to show the 0 and then .00. So this ensures that even if there's nothing after the decimal point, it's going to return those zeros. And you can look online for all kinds of different formats that you can use here. Close that, and now we have result is 10. If I copy that down, you see that now we're preserving the formatting from our cells here. Same thing with dates. We can concatenate this, and you see what we get. We get the numeric representation of this date. What we can do with text is say today is, concatenate that with text. I'm gonna grab the date, and then I'm gonna provide the format. And I actually want to provide the format as the day. There you have it. Those are all the text manipulation functions you need in order to be able to advance your Excel knowledge to the next level. And if you want to learn more about financial modeling and Excel in general, visit first link in the description box below. It's my Gumroad page. As I mentioned, there's a bunch of free resources there that you can check out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.